Hi there, guys. I'm here today with Tamar. She's in sunny Florida. She'll see her point of view in a minute. It's quite a lovely place where she's from. She's almost in like the Muscle Beach of Florida, I'm guessing it looks like. Yeah.
No, there's no muscle here.
No, it's just one woman on the beach by the looks of it. Yeah, you're very lucky
Yeah.
to live where you are. So the purpose of this video is to talk about training, diet, whilst following a carnivorous way of eating. So could you provide like a brief backstory about your health, things you changed recently, perhaps, and who you are?
Um, Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. First and foremost, my name is Tamar LiCalzi. Like you said, I am from Florida, born and raised. Um, I, when I was a child, asthma was the first thing, and allergies were the first things that really started to pop up when I was about 5 years old. I was homeschooled, so I wasn't heavily vaccinated to go into public school down in Dade County or anything like that. And those were the primary issues that I really relatively dealt with until I got a little bit older in my early teens, about 14, 15. I started to get a lot of knee pain and had gotten diagnosed by the time I was 19 with degenerative arthritis in both of my knees. And I also rolled my pickup truck when I was 19 and then ended up having sprained L3, L4, L5, and S1, and was told that it would become arthritic as I got older. So I started having a lot of joint and body pain in my teens. By the time I was almost 30, the year of my late 28, 29, I really started to have a lot of health problems manifest. I think some of it, I don't want to do TMI, but I believe that breast implant illness might possibly be some of the issue. I got breast implants in January of 2004. August of 2004, Hurricane Charlie hit this exact town that I'm in right now that Hurricane Ian just hit a couple months ago. And it did a lot of damage. My home, by December of that year, my home started to have a lot of black mold in it. And my breast implants were still relatively new. And looking back and doing a lot of research, I believe that that really started to change my body. I don't detox mold. I have genetics that I don't detox mold out of my system very well. Come to find out years down the road, I also have the MTHFR SNP, so I don't methylate properly. Both of my parents gave me that gene. I have the COMT gene as well, which I believe is an estrogen uh, issue. I can't remember exactly what that is, so I'm not going to pretend, but it does have something to do with estrogen dominance and so on and so forth. So back to 2004, I started to feel sick. And then by 2006, that year of 2006, I had a calendar like a 90-year-old person. I was seeing orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, rheumatologists, um, uh, female doctors like gynecologists, the pulmonary doctor, because of the asthma. I was seeing digestive doctors and now I'm having a brain I can't remember what they're called. The doctors that do like scoping of the intestines and stuff.
Gastroenterologists.
Gastroenterologists, yes, gastro doctors. I was seeing almost every kind of doctor that you could possibly think of, and I couldn't breathe. I would swell up like I looked like I was 7 months pregnant. I had neuropathy super bad, especially on the left side of my body. I was losing the enamel on my teeth. I was losing my hair. I couldn't sleep at nighttime. I was in so much pain, and it would happen when I would eat. And I was competing. And of course, I was on the bodybuilder diet of eating 6 or 7 times a day, eating grains, you think you're doing okay by eating some whole wheat toast or whatever. And in 2006, right before my 30th birthday in 2007, I had found a gastro doctor and he wanted me to get scoped, basically, to make a long story short. He told me I didn't fit the description because I wasn't Irish, because I'm Italian, that I shouldn't have celiac disease. And I'm like, well, I have all the symptoms, but I'm tall. I'm 5'10". So I didn't get stunted as a kid. And So he was like, well, I don't think you have it. I said, well, I think I have it. So I want to get tested for it. I got insurance. Come to find out, the doctor actually called me back. He said, I was married at the time. He said, well, Mrs. Cole, you're a lot smarter than I give you credit for. You actually, because they tested my IgE antibodies and different antibodies and stuff like that. He said, you actually look like you have the markers for celiac disease. He said, I think we need to do a scope on you. And I said, well, how accurate is the blood work? He said 95%. I said, how accurate is the scope? He said 99. I said, I think I'm good with the 95. You know, I didn't want to go under anesthesia to have a endoscopy and a colonoscopy, et cetera, to see how bad my intestines were. So I found out about the gluten-free diet. I went gluten-free. I kind of naturally went paleo at that time because I only knew I could eat meat, fruit, I could eat olive oil, I could eat some vegetables. So I went on a paleo diet without even really realizing it was paleo because I was afraid to eat anything else. And then, of course, gluten-free stuff started popping up. And then I'm a sugar addict. I am a self-proclaimed addict of sugar, no different than an alcoholic is with alcohol. So I would always find treats that had sugar in them. And so I found these gluten-free cookies. And then maybe a few years went down the road and new problems started to manifest. Eventually, I ended up going through a divorce, had some stress, and I was on the Food Network and all this other nonsense because one of my exes and I had we had a restaurant together and past the divorce. Then I was on the Food Network and all this other stuff. So lots of stress. And then I found out I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis and rheumatoid arthritis. And those were two new things added to the list of being at least not necessarily a celiac per se, but definitely gluten intolerant and the asthma. I started to get Raynaud's and Sjogren's. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Syndrome. It's like a dry
Oh, the
mucus
fingers.
membrane. The Sjogren's is like a mucus membrane thing. So
Uh,
anything that has dry mouth, dry eyes, dry lady parts, dry, even your lungs can get dry. So there's lots of and it can affect your joints as well because, the synovial fluid and stuff like that. So the RA, Sjogren's, Raynaud's, they all kind of go hand in hand with each other. The Raynaud's I would get, my fingers and stuff turn white. When I get really, really cold, I can't bend them. I can't feel them, my toes. So those problems were manifesting worse and worse and worse. And that led me to go onto a keto diet because I couldn't digest even meat and vegetables. So I did keto. That worked for a while because on the paleo diet, I was able to find sugar too. I went paleo, then I went keto. When I went keto, that did the best on that for a long time, but I was still eating chicken and copious amounts of broccoli and other vegetables and things that I probably shouldn't have been eating. But it worked. I was able to stay lean. I've never been big and fat ever in my life. Maybe 20 pounds was the biggest I had ever gotten. And that's another story for another day, but that kind of all had something to do with it. And then I was able to finally lose that weight when I moved back here, and I'd moved away for a few years, and I came back home, and I'm a lot happier here by the water because it's salty air. I feel happier. The sky is like this a lot, a lot more than where I lived in Florida up in Ocala, and I was depressed a lot. So there was so many different things, and it all culminated into this one big thing, and I couldn't find any answers, and no diet would work anymore. And just recently, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I started to come across Carnivore, and I started to do that because I started researching it, but I couldn't ever go completely straight carnivore. I would do animal based. You get a lot of conflicting stories with animal based, with eating some fruit. And as a sugar addict, I cannot, under any circumstances, put even one piece of fruit in my diet once a day because it will automatically trigger something in me to make it worse. And once that sugar gets in my body, that's when my health problems really start to manifest again, from SIBO, candida issues, skin issues, joint pain, lethargy, brain fog, you name it, I get it. And most of my diseases are invisible. So most people look at me because I've always been in shape, I've always been muscular, I've always been athletic, and even in my worst pain, I will still find a way to go to the gym and work out, even if it's 50% of what I would normally do. I still find a way to work out. So people don't think you have any problems when you look okay. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh,
I
she
know,
must not have any
I know
problems.
exactly what you're saying. I get that all the time. I have probably at least three or four hidden disabilities. I don't look it, but people that know me day to day, how I am, they know what problems I have, and that's why I wanted to have you on. Just explaining that brief part of it all. I can completely relate, and it's nice to hear someone the other side of the world sort of having experiencing the same thing, but also conquering things in the same sort of aspect. So, in that regard, how has the diet that you're currently doing improved your health overall?
So about 2 months before Hurricane Ian, so at the end of July, I've been following Dr. Baker and Dr. Chafee and Dr. Kiltz, and primarily those three for a while now. And I started doing a lot of research. Then I found Michaela Peterson and saw about the lion diet, and that what Dr. Baker does is pretty much the lion diet. I think Dr. Chafee is pretty much the same way, with just pretty much eating meat only, like 95% of the time, 99% of the time. Sometimes they'll eat eggs, and sometimes Dr. Chafee will eat butter. I love butter, but I get addicted to butter too. So 2 months before that, I started to get sick. I had gone down to Key West and was eating, because my food allergies are so bad. If I go out to a restaurant, I can't eat in a restaurant. So I have to eat stuff that's relatively benign that won't bother me. And cheese is addicting to me, but I was eating like prosciutto rolls, prosciutto with mozzarella cheese, or kombucha tea, and some fruit and some plantain chips. And then I'd still eat meat. I was eating a lot of fish down there that I was making myself, but I kind of really fell off the whole carnivore and went totally animal based down in the Keys, because I have to go to Publix, which is a big grocery store here in the southeast of the United States, and buy food that I can eat on the fly that's not going to give me the autoimmune reactions that I get if I was to get gluten in my system, which will take 6 months to a year to heal from some of those reactions. So I have to choose the lesser two evils. Well, I got pretty sick when I came home. I think I might have gotten the Coco Roro 1-9, if you kind of catch my drift. I did not test for it. I don't want to get you in trouble or anything, so I don't want to say the whole thing. I didn't test for it, but I think I had a mild version of it for the first time in 5 years. It was the first time I got a cold, and never the flu part, but it was all on the left side of my face. And then I was like, you know what? I ate some chicken, or not turkey, ground beef that day with some cheese on it when I was starting to feel better. I blew up and looked like I was pregnant. My stomach, I put videos on my Instagram. They're on there back in like late July, early August. My stomach, from the top of my rib cage down to my pelvis, extended out to the side, even on my back. I looked like I had never touched weights ever in my life. I couldn't breathe. Like literally, I was like, because it puts so much pressure. The intestinal distension is so bad, I can't breathe. So I laid down, slept, and then I went out, worked out, and I'm like, that does it. I am starting the lion diet, strict, strict. Let's go. And on August 1st was my first day. 5 days before the hurricane, I had done really good. Not 100% perfect on the lion diet. I think like 2 weeks in, I had a half of a kombucha tea. I was jonesing for it. I had some salmon maybe one time. I had some panino fingers with the prosciutto with the mozzarella cheese. So I had kind of veered off to beef only. And then 5 days before the hurricane, I liken everything to that stupid hurricane because it was so bad that it's like where my brain goes with trauma, like before and after. I decided to try some coffee because I wasn't really feeling super good. I was feeling better, but I wasn't looking good. I woke up every day with a puffy face. I'm like, I'm only eating meat for the most part. Why is my face so puffy? and I stopped eating the butter and everything. Well, my mom was like, "Do you want a little cup of coffee?" Because I stopped drinking coffee. And I'm like, you know what? What the heck? We got to get ready for a hurricane. This was on Sunday. The hurricane came on Wednesday. I was like, you know what the heck? So I had like this much coffee in a cup. It's organic. It comes out of Gainesville, Florida. Um, Good quality, really mild. We use French press, so we're not using plastic and this and that. And I actually felt good after I drank it. And I was like, oh wow, I actually feel pretty good. And then I had my dinner, which was steak and stuff. And then the few days after that, the hurricane came, destroyed our lives. I put the stupid plantain chips back in my diet because I didn't know. I didn't have electricity for 9 days. I didn't know if I was, going to run out of propane gas from my grill. Thankfully, I had enough meat for the 9 days we had no electricity. My mom and I were able to eat beef every single day, but I was doing so much labor after the hurricane with the cleanup and stuff that I was starving. And so I justified it and ate those stupid plantain chips. Then I started to gain weight again. It was only 2 bags worth now in like 3 days. Okay. So it wasn't like copious amounts of carbs, but that addiction comes back. So Thanksgiving last week was officially 8 weeks since the last time I had a single ounce of carbohydrate. So I went back to lion diet about 3 days after the storm, and I only eat grass-fed beef. I will eat some prosciutto, but I try to trim the fat off of the prosciutto, just eat the main meat from the prosciutto. And I do drink the coffee in the morning. The coffee actually helps me not be as stiff. And I remember doing research about being Th1 dominant or Th2 dominant with autoimmune issues and stuff like that. And I am the one that coffee helps. It doesn't hinder, but I don't drink so much of it that I'm addicted to the caffeine. I had to get rid of the caffeine withdrawal part, have a nice cup in the morning. I don't use it for energy, but it does help with my inflammation, and I feel like I've done better. And so, since the hurricane, I gained weight when I went strict lion diet only, because I was eating probably 3 steaks a day, maybe more, and no butter, no nothing. And then about 2 weeks ago, boom, it all of a sudden just started to melt off. The body fat did. It's like I gained weight and I gained muscle super easy anyway, being Italian. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks ago, I'm like, oh, I'm getting leaner. I'm seeing my abs really good. My legs are thinning back down. No cardio, no nothing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I was that stubborn person that was so addicted to sugar. My insulin was crazy, even though I didn't feel like it was. My gut digestion was horrible. I was absorbing everything. I had to eat more to feel satiated, and now I don't eat as much. So everything, like my brain fog is better, my joint pain is better. I don't have these awful things on my feet. I was getting like these weird pussy looking things that looked like ant bites on the soles of my feet. And then they would itch. And then if I popped them, then they would hurt and burn. And then they would scab up and they would kind of like look flaky and gross. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gross. My lady time is 100 times better than it's always ever been, with from pain to cramping and all that kind of stuff. I have lost body fat easily. My skin's relatively clear. For being almost 46 years old, I feel like I'm stronger at 45, 46 in the weight room than I was even in my 20s and 30s. I'm lifting weight much better and with much more intensity than I ever did, without having to kill myself doing 3 hours of cardio to lose fat plus weights. I'm just doing an hour and 15 now in the gym, and I'm losing body fat and staying more muscular. And I'm only eating like once a day, you know?
Brilliant.
Did
Yeah, it's crazy,
that
isn't it?
answer? It is crazy. People would think you're nuts. They're like, oh no, you have to do 2 hours of cardio a day and your weights. Cause I used to compete, and I think I got a lot of adrenal and thyroid issues from my competition days because I was always natural. I never wanted to take anything. And I am natural. I'm not lying about being natural. So, I had to do like 2.5 hours of cardio plus my weight training, split that up and do twofers at the gym on competition time. And I never could lose all that fat on my glute ham tine and on the sides of my legs and on my butt, the best I could ever look was when I would water deplete and totally lose all the water as much as possible, get on stage. And that was the leanest I could get on my legs. And then as soon as I would eat anything and drink water, poof, I would blow back up. And I almost would have a little cellulite again, because that's kind of in my genetics. It's like I can't get rid of it. But even at 46, I'm not really super cellulite. I've gotten a lot more muscle in my legs in the last 3 or 4 months by training and eating this way, even with the little cheats before the hurricane, during the hurricane. Um, I feel like the muscle, you can't see it because it's kind of cool today. So I have long sleeve shirt on, but the muscle is pretty prominent for my age, and, you know, only lifting weights like an hour and 15 minutes a day. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty shocked myself when I came across your profile. I think we connected through Dr. Chafee, maybe.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm a carnivorous bodybuilder from the UK. That's my niche. I've competed as a carnivore bodybuilder. Tamar is a carnivore female bodybuilder from the US. So the diet does seem to help people, both male and female. It's not just only men eat steak or this nonsense. And the thing as well you brought up is how your genes can greatly affect your health outcomes and what your body is able to do. Ultimately, stressing your body out to oblivion, doing 2 hours of cardio a day, doing weights every day, under eating, not eating enough fat, it won't work out too well, and your body's going to be so deprived. Tamar's just an example of someone that has been able to overcome a lot of things through just the diet aspect of it all. And what I find to be most useful here is that it lines so closely with my brand, my website, my everything. So what I promote basically is aligning physique goals with positive health outcomes. And you're someone who's done exactly that. So you're probably one of the first people on my channel that's done it to the degree that I'm looking to reach. So, for example, one of my favorite bodybuilders, you might know of him, Cedric McMillan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he's my favorite bodybuilder. He's actually behind me, behind the green screen, on a big poster. But yeah, so his death was part of the reason why I started my channel, amongst other reasons. But I got so fed up of seeing all these people unwell, walking around expos, belching, burping, smelling funny, uh, terrible digestion, heart troubles, they can't breathe properly. So many problems that are so obvious, and they're just the ones that you see, ones that you see on them. You can actually
Mm-hmm.
see and hear it. So yeah, I love what you do, and that's part of the reason I wanted to bring you on today. We've got one
Thank you.
question as well. We've about probably 10 minutes left to answer it, but
Oh,
no worries. No, honestly, I'm so glad you said the things you did, because you actually eliminated a lot of questions I did have, because I threw a few curveballs there. So the question is, what is your current training like? And do you have any sort of preferred training techniques? So you're someone with like an incredible physique, especially for a female. It's quite unheard of. So anyone watching this now, head over to her Instagram channel and see what's going on over there. She's got incredible physique. So what is your current training, and what are you doing to get that?
so thank you, first off. I used to do back in the day the 4 to 5 sets of 20 to 25 reps. Being that I have a slight ADD kind of issue, you could probably tell by the way I talk, I kind of go off in different directions. It's hard to reel me in. I'm doing it right now. My training is also the same way. I do not do the same thing every time I go to the gym. I get bored very easily. I found that doing heavier weight with more sets, say 6 to 8 sets of 8 to 10, sometimes 12 reps. If I get up to 12, then I know it's still too light reps. Keeping the amount of time between the sets much shorter, almost to the point where I monitor it. Either I'm doing straight sets and I'll do, like, just for example, leg curls. I would stay in the leg curl machine. I wouldn't let any more than 30 seconds go by. I would do a heavy set of 8 to 10 reps, stop. If I felt like 10 reps was still, if I could do more than 10 reps, I would automatically up the weight, wait the 30 seconds, hit another 8 to 10, and do that for 6 to 8, sometimes 10, depending on how frisky I am, sets, do less individual moves that particular day, higher, still high volume, but in a different way where you're resting a little bit more in between. That tends to work for me. And or I will do supersets and sometimes small, I call them giant sets, where I might do, depending on how busy the gym is. If it's super busy, I won't do it. I'll at the max only superset, maybe 3 to 4 different exercises back to back, but I try to fatigue the muscle. And then if I do a giant set, maybe rest like a minute and then go back. But I want my weight to be as heavy as possible. I've always been strong in the back and the legs, the glutes, even my arms are really kind of strong. And I try to, proper form, of course, is essential. I will do half reps and 3/4 reps to keep time under tension in a lot of things. But I don't really have a specific style of training that necessarily has a name for it that I've ever come up with. I kind of, as a personal trainer, I kind of just do something different, and I just try to challenge myself and stay in shape because I get really bored really fast. So I don't do as much cardio. Some days I will throw in functional type cardio movements, whether it's plyometrics, to get my heart rate up a little bit, especially on days that I like my strength is a little less. So I don't, I wear an Apple Watch, so I know they're not perfect, but I think with the heart rate, it still monitors a heart rate relatively well. So I have it programmed to see where I keep my heart rate at a certain level. I can tell I can get my heart rate to 170, 175 beats per minute lifting weights. So if I'm doing a couple different moves in succession with each other, and even without doing cardio, I did that the other day. So I was in fat burning mode for like, I don't know, 40 minutes. It was like 40-ish minutes. And then cardio mode, I was even in for 30 minutes, only lifting weights. I lifted for like 75 minutes that day. That's a pretty high heart rate to keep my heart in for that long time, just lifting weights and not doing any kind of mundane cardiovascular work like on a treadmill or step mill or going running or anything like that. So I sometimes back off. That tends to be on leg day or back day. I can kill my back so hard. Like I can do 3 45-pound plates on either side of a hammer strength machine and row it. I'm really strong. I've had men come up to me and they're like, is you doing that? And I'm like, yeah. Especially when they find out I'm old, because I'm 40, I'll be 46 in March. They're like, holy smokes. And I'm like, it's the diet. I do the lion diet. I only eat meat, so I'm strong. It helps my hormones. So,
Yeah.
but my training itself it's kind of all over. I don't want to say it's all over the place, but that tends to work for me the best. Higher, heavier weight, not so heavy that I'm going to hurt myself, but heavy enough that 8 to 10 feels good. And I want to stop by the time I get to number 7. So pushing it to 8 to 10 is challenging, if that makes any sense. And then do generally 6 sets, sometimes 8. If I was going to compete, I would probably do it 8 sets to really build that dense muscle. Because I find that I put on muscle really easily if I really challenge myself and get it up to 8 to 10 sets and do less exercises. And then the next day I hit that body part, not the next day, but the next time I would hit that body part again, maybe pick 4 or 5 different exercises and do it the same way. And then I can put on some dense muscle doing that, especially with the high saturated fat, meat diet, because, people want to argue about saturated fat, but we need saturated fat ultimately to make our hormones. And I'm Italian, like almost 80% Italian. So I'm naturally got testosterone. I got a mustache. I have to wax it off, I don't wax it off anymore. I actually shave it off now. I don't like, screw it. I just get little hairs right here and right here. I've had it since I was a kid. So I've always had a lot of testosterone, and eating this way has helped kind of balance out, I think, the estrogen issues where I hold way too much fat in my hips and thighs if I get out of control and start eating the carbs again. So that's with that. The diet. Did I answer the weight?
Yeah, that does explain it really well.
Okay.
I mean, two of my key underlying features of most people training when I make people plans and things is that one, well, maybe three things. One, it's safe. Two, there's a aspect of enjoyment with it. So they've got to be able to actually follow said plan. And the third thing is it's challenging. And it sounds like you pretty much hit all three of those. So you you know, people are going to argue about, oh, do 6 sets, 2 sets, whatever it is. You know, you got to enjoy it. So you've got one of the main things down there. So that's key really. It's critical. And you're someone that's been training for a long time. You know what works for you.
33 years, a
How
long
are you
time.
going to tell someone after 33 years they've been doing it wrong?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How are you going to tell someone after 33 years that they've been doing it wrong?
Right. And I try not to sound arrogant online and stuff like that, but I'm like, women come to me to train them because I have a big derriere. And, they come to me and I'm like, well, then why are you going to argue with me about how I lift weights? It's like, I've been doing this for a long time. Either you want me to train you or you don't, and sometimes it comes off sounding arrogant, or men will come at you saying, oh, you shouldn't do that exercise. That's not even, whatever, like using the abductor machine. There's so many different ways to use that machine to target different spots of the glutes. And people think you're trying to do it for Instagram. I could give two patooties what Instagram thinks about what I'm doing, or the fitness gurus or whatever on Instagram, especially the 18-year-old ones, that have only been working out for like 5 years. Sorry, you're not a professional. We've been doing this a long time, so can you argue with me? Yeah, you can state your case. Am I going to listen to it and think that you're right? Probably not, if it's not, if it's something I've done and it didn't work for me and what I'm doing works for me. You know what I'm saying? And there's more than one way to skin a cat at the end of the day. And I think that's where the internet has gotten kind of wonky, is that there's only one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it. And that's why I think even with carnivore and lion diet, like I do eat the prosciutto. I don't eat just the grass-fed beef, but I don't go off and eat the butter and the cheese except for once a month. Like I had some on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to eat any more until Christmas. Butter and cheese. I'm good with just my meat, but I'm a human and I want to have something slightly off my my diet.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
and then I suffer, and then I, heal up pretty fast and I'm good to go. I don't really suffer with the butter and cheese other than my face gets real puffy under here. And then it takes a few days and then it goes away. But there's more than one way to do something. And I think everybody in our little niche with the carnivore, everybody's got their thing where some people are like, oh, you have to eat fruit still, or you have to eat, you have to, especially if you're an athlete. I don't think athletes, we don't have to eat sugar. I haven't touched it in 2 months and I'm more muscular now and I'm lean and I'm pretty solid. I don't look flat. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you're
yeah.
going to look flat if you don't eat your carbs. That's a carb addict telling you that, in my opinion. That's somebody that can't give up their carbs.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, there's loads of things we can go into there. If you're taking the carbs out of your diet, you're gonna have to replace whatever energy that is giving you with fat. That's what's A lot of people go to the carnivore diet. They'll be doing it with chicken breasts. They'll be doing it with, just standard eggs. You need way more fat than that. I think fattiest meat you can look at. So when you're looking at a shop, you're looking at a steak and it's got a cap on it like that. That is what is going to give you the energy. So if you think you're just going to get a lean piece of this, it's not going to work out too well, and your results will be short-lived. That's all I can say.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of
How
them
can
eat the
people
chicken.
how can people find you quickly before we wrap up?
I'm pretty much just on, well, I use Snapchat. All my handles are the same. And Instagram, it's the little at symbol, my name, TamarLiCalzi. That is on. I used to have TikTok, but I got that off my phone. I might make a YouTube channel, but I might not. I don't know. I'm debating. I pretty much have my biggest platforms on Instagram. So Instagram is probably the best way to go. And then Snapchat is fine too. I pretty much just double up though on Snapchat and Instagram on the stories. So pretty much those two places. So
All right, brilliant. All right, so what I'll do is I'll link them below for everyone in the show notes. Thank you very much for coming on. I hope to see you again soon.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening for you.